And with that, I'd like to introduce Darla Sidles, our keynote presenter, the Superintendent of Rocky Mountain National Park. And Darla's talk is titled Keeping Natural Areas Natural, Juggling Natural Resource Protection and Heavy Visitor Use. So please join me in welcoming Darla.
There are 20 to 30 seats up here if you're looking for a place to sit.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really honored and pleased to be with you all here today, and I'm really curious, how many of you are not from Colorado? Can I see a... Wow, that's awesome. Well, welcome to Northern Colorado, and I am just very pleased to be with you here today. I am the first female superintendent of Rocky Mountain National Park in 101 years. And I've been at Rocky for a little bit over a year. And what makes this conference so much fun for me to talk with you is because you're all from so many different agencies. And that is really going to be important as we move forward in protecting these natural areas. I started my career with the Forest Service and spent 5 years with the Forest Service in Northwest Washington, working on trails, revegetation, wilderness ranger, and then went to the Park Service, and then my first superintendency was at the Grand Canyon Parashant National Monument, which, if you're familiar with that, you know that it's jointly managed between the National Park Service and the Bureau of Land Management. Former Secretary Bruce Babbitt established that and said, your goal is to manage this monument seamlessly. So we had our challenge, and I always tell people that is the most challenging job I have ever had, and I'm sure I will be able to say that even toward the end of my career. It was also the most gratifying because we learn from each other, and we've all got some good ideas, we've all got good practices. There's not one single agency or one single NGO in here who knows exactly how to do things. We rely on each other to learn the best things and then to share best practices. So it's great for me to be here with you all to talk about some of those things, and I know you're going to have a great 3 days ahead, sharing ideas, talking about innovation, creativity, resilience, all of the things that you do to keep yourself moving forward and doing the good work that you do. It certainly is becoming increasingly challenging to manage our natural areas, and it's a number of different reasons. One is because of some of the administration and bureaucracy that we face as years go on, right? I don't think there's probably a single entity in here that doesn't recognize that it is more difficult as time goes on. We've got more red tape, more bureaucracy, more reports due, replies due. I think in the National Park Service we did a study and found that there's a reply due every other day. So sometimes we feel a little frustrated maybe because the work that we normally do is rife full of administrative challenges to do, including hiring and budget and staffing and all of those things. Environmental-wise, we've seen a lot of changes, obviously. Increase of invasive species, wildland fire, loss of biodiversity, climate change, and then societal changes. Those all go hand in hand, really. When we look at what's happening with our society. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But the thing that I want to focus my attention on this morning is what we're seeing here on the Front Range, and that is a very large increase in population along the Front Range. And the result of that is folks are coming to our open lands and our public lands and recreating, and in Rocky, we've seen a huge increase in visitation, so I kind of want to talk about how that is impacting, how that is affecting our ability to manage our public lands. The National Park Service turned 100 years old last year, and certainly there's been a lot of changes in those 100 years. Some of you have been around for a while. You might remember we used to throw fireballs off of Glacier Point in Yosemite National Park. And we also, if you can believe it, intentionally fed bears to the delight of visitors sitting in grandstands. So hopefully we've evolved, right? We can be happy that we are evolving past some of these things and are now recognizing that this is maybe not quite the thing we should do. But one of the other changes that we've seen most recently is this rapid increase in visitation. And I just want to clarify, this photo is not photoshopped. This is Trail Ridge Road, which is the highest continuously paved road in the United States. It goes above 10,000 feet for, I think, 12 or 13 miles. And this is a popular summer day in the summertime. That is fragile alpine tundra on either side of that roadway. So we want to talk a little bit about visitation in national parks and our public lands and how that's impacting us. This is another photo that kind of demonstrates what we're up against every single day during the summer. And it's not just the summer. In Rocky Mountain National Park, over the last few years, in particular the last 4 years, we've seen a 40% increase in visitation. We are now above 4.5 million visitors annually, and we are the fourth most visited park in the United States. First is Great Smokies, second Grand Canyon, third Yosemite. We had been above them last year, and thankfully they exceeded us last year, and now we're number 4. But it certainly presents a lot of challenges. This graph just shows how visitation has increased every month of the year. A lot of people think Rocky Mountain, that's just a summer park. No, when you are located at an hour and a half north of a huge major metropolitan area and all of these cities along the Front Range, people come all year round, and we're seeing increases in visitation all year round. So I'm going to talk real briefly about 4 main areas that how this visitation is impacting our ability to manage. And the first is safety of visitors and staff. When we see these huge increases in numbers, we're seeing traffic, we're seeing congestion, people trying to drive up through Lyons into the Estes Park and then into the park. And there's a lot of people that are trying to jockey for positions in parking places. They can't find one, and what do? They take it out on our staff. We actually had a couple of years ago, Bear Lake, one of our most popular areas in the park, the majority of the staff that worked there quit because they were feeling so impacted by visitors who were taking their frustrations out on them. So we've seen some kind of abuse to staff. We've seen safety and visitor incidents increase. This year, calendar year, we've had 146 search and rescues, and that's what we do when we go out and rescue people who are lost or climbing, hiking, auto accidents, whatever it is. So a slight uptick as well in fatalities. We had 5 this year. So those are kind of some examples of issues that we're concerned about when we talk about safety of our staff and our visitors. Those issues are increasing. Resource protection, the very reason the Park Service was established. I think this picture you see here is worth 1,000 words. It only takes one car, right, to pull over on the vegetation, and then everybody says, hey, this looks like a great place to park. And this one, because, who wouldn't want a photo of your Maserati out in the field with the Continental Divide in the background? In terms of the resource impact, we've seen a lot of impacts from the increase in visitation as well. This photo shows a popular area of the park, and I don't know if you can tell, but those black lines there are the official trails. The red are the unofficial trails. This is a popular bouldering and hiking area. We've seen a lot of other impacts, and I know many of you are probably very accustomed to this, from substantial human waste issues to cutting of trees to cutting of fish heads. Wildlife encounters. This photographer was striving to get the inside of the nostril of that elk cow there, and then the bull up to the left moved and just about ran over him. So I know we've seen some of these issues increasing as well along the Front Range, not just Rocky Mountain National Park, but all over the Front Range and areas where elk are very prevalent this time of year. So the other two issues associated with increasing visitation, visitor experience. The National Park Service has a dual mission to protect the resources and to provide for visitor experience. So more recently, the National Park Service said, we want to provide transformative visitor experiences. And I'm thinking when they said that, they weren't thinking of transformative in the way of, let's wait in line at Lions in traffic, let's wait in line all the way up 20 miles up the hill to Estes Park, let's wait in line at Estes Park, then let's finally get out of Estes, get to the park entrance, wait in line at the park entrance for 20, 45 minutes, and then once we get inside the park entrance, we can't find a place to park. Somehow I think that's not what they meant by the meaning of transformative. So our goal, our mission in the National Park Service is to provide these transformative experiences. So it concerns me greatly that we've got a lot of people that are not coming to the park anymore because there's so many people and because there's so much traffic and congestion. So I worry about those folks who don't come anymore, and I worry about those who do come who aren't getting to have that experience because they can't find a place to park. We're also seeing a bit of an increase in bad behavior, and maybe this is nationwide. I don't know that it's specific to national parks. There's somebody walking right past the no dogs sign with dogs. I guess that sign didn't quite look exactly like her dog. And then an increase in illegal fires as well. So I don't know if we're seeing an increase in bad behavior because there's more bad people or because it's the same proportion, but we have so many people that it just seems like a lot more. A little blurry there. I don't know if y'all can see that. I love this cartoon. So what is a park? What is a natural area? What are we to do with all of this increasing visitation? Well, as we just heard before I got up here, has anybody seen this movie? Oh, okay. That's your task after this. Actually, I think it's a horror movie, so it's perfectly in line with Halloween. But a lot of us are facing these issues. Can I just get a show of hands? Do others in this room have some of these issues with visitation? Okay, so at least 50%. So I think it's important for us to know that we are not alone, that we all are in this together, and we've got a lot of solutions out here amongst us. I think it's important to also note that the National Park Service was established by the public, so I don't want to portray this increase in visitation as all bad. I would really rather to see a lot of people interested and protecting and being advocates for our natural areas than being apathetic or indifferent. So this is a challenge we just need to manage because it's great that we've got this upsurge in people that care about our natural areas. It's really a positive sign, I think. I would hate to be sitting here trying to sell why you should come to Rocky Mountain National Park. So important for our longevity and our future management is to have this public support. Just wanted to bring this to your attention because I wasn't even aware of this until about a year ago, but there is a visitor use management framework that you can see those agencies listed there that are looking at ways to help us figure out how to manage visitor use. And we've done a lot of these steps that are outlined in this framework. We've also, as part of that framework, talks about the science and the research that's needed to be able to handle visitor use and to discuss visitor capacity. So we've done a lot of natural resource work, we've done a lot of social science work, and probably some of the folks in this room have helped with that. I can't see individual faces, but I know there's folks from NRSS here. So this is just a smattering. We have hundreds of studies that support what we're doing going ahead with visitor use strategies. So the frameworks are great. Data, science, all of those are very important. They're all important legs of the stool, but collaboration is the key, right? If we don't talk to each other, learn from each other, learn best practices and share them, then we're just working in a vacuum and we're working in isolation. Collaboration is absolutely essential to what we do because we've all got a piece of the pie and the solution here. So we have to establish those relationships, talk, share, think about good ideas, and figure out how we can achieve these common goals together. So I just wanted to say, what is Rocky Mountain National Park doing? Well, I've been at the park for about a year, and we said, hey, what's everybody else doing out there? And we found that there are a lot of national parks across the system of 418 units that are dealing with this dramatic increase in visitation. And so this is just a smattering, very small subset of national parks that are considering reservation systems or permits in the future. Muir Woods is looking at a shuttle and parking system that would be effective come next year. Haleakala tried out a sunrise viewing system this past February that was very successful. And Zion National Park, if you're familiar with them and all of their many issues associated with increased visitation, they've put out an environmental assessment a couple of months ago, and they've got 3 alternatives. One is no action, which is really probably not too sustainable. The second one is let's put a permit or a reservation, some type of reservation system on the most popular areas of the park. And then the third alternative is a reservation system for the entire park. So we're watching all of these national parks very closely because they're ahead of us. And we are very happy that they are leading the way because we don't have to recreate this wheel. We can say, hey, that's working in Acadia. Maybe it will work for us. And there's no one size fits all. So the last thing we want is, for the national or regional offices to say, here's the way we want you to do this. This is a cookbook approach because that doesn't necessarily work. Everybody you need some consistency, but then you need the adaptability and the flexibility to make it work for you. It's not just the national parks that are looking at these sorts of ways to manage visitation either. That upper left-hand photo there is Brainerd Lake with the Forest Service just outside of Rocky. And for, I think, more than 5 years, they have been doing a one car in, one car out approach. I was there this summer, and we were driving up the road, and we kind of get to the car in front of us that stops, and I see the line of cars snaking around. Everybody was aware that they needed to stop and wait in line in their cars until the parking lot filled up and somebody came down and relieved them. So one car in, one car out. There is a parking lot up at the end. It's the most incredibly beautiful setting. So everybody wants to go there. They get there early in the morning, and then the parking lot fills up. So these folks sit around. It was amazing to me. It was like a tailgate session at a football party. They were all I had their doors open and their coolers out, and they're having a great time. It's because the Forest Service has set that expectation. People know that if they want to go there, they either need to get there really early or they're going to have to wait. And people seemed okay with it. I was quite amazed. Coyote Buttes, the BLM manages this in Arizona. They've got a permit system to walk in, either online or walk-in lottery system, only 20 permits a day. So a lot of public lands are doing this. I think the National Park Service has a lot to learn from some of our neighbors as well. So just in kind of wrapping up, the next steps at Rocky, we've done some short-term things. When our 3 busiest areas fill up with parking, we're restricting access and saying, where there's a shuttle system, you need to bring the shuttle system in, or you need to come early or come late. Don't come between 10 and 2 in the afternoon because you probably won't find a place to park. We want to continue to communicate this issue and to let people know that they need to come if they want to get into the park and they don't want to take the shuttle, they've got to come early in the morning or late in the afternoon or during the week or a different time of year. More and more people are looking to plan their visit online, and this is really helpful for us. It helps us to get the message across. And we know we need to, again, as I mentioned, we need to avoid that rigid consistency. So we're learning from each other. We're trying to hold it together until we get a longer-term goal set. And so what we're doing with the long-term aspect, we've hired a visitor use planner. That is her sole job. I feel very lucky to have gotten a little bit of money from our national office to fund her. That is the only thing she's going to be doing for the next couple of years, is helping us learn from all of those other agencies that are facing these issues, figure out how do we maintain that incredible transformative visitor experience and yet protect our resources that are so critical and really the reason that people are coming. So we've hired the visitor use planner. She's continuing to work to explore what all of you are doing, what others are doing in terms of visitor use management. We're planning to formulate some alternatives. How do we manage this visitation? You know, not everybody is a fan of reservation systems or permit systems, so we'll have to have some alternatives out there. Maybe it's the no action that don't have that element in there. But we really feel that, you know, we've watched the river rafting community. If any of you are river rafters over the years, you know, 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have reservation systems. People were out there clacking their oars against each other because they were so crowded. They couldn't get in the river. They couldn't find campsites. We put in reservation systems for a lot of these large rivers, and it's actually pretty darn well managed now. People have that expectation, and again, I think that's absolutely key when we talk about changes that we're proposing, is getting the buy-in, the input of our local, regional, and national constituents. We don't just, you know, put it out there and say, hey, we're going to do this. We need folks' buy-in. We want people to appreciate why we're doing this, and that is to create those great visitor experiences. So when you come to Rocky Mountain National Park, you know you're going to have a great experience. Those folks that aren't coming anymore, they're going to come back if they're able to get in there and have a great experience. So stay tuned. I think that the key of this, or the theme of this conference, collaboration, is really absolutely critical to what we do. We don't do this in a vacuum, and Rocky Mountain National Park is learning from everyone out there, and we're open to new ideas. And if you've got some ideas, or your agency is looking at these things and you've got some, you know, whiz-bang great solutions, I would love to hear them, because I'm just a sponge right now. Sponge Darla SquarePants. I just want to learn from all of you and figure out the best way to manage this park for future generations. This is just a favorite quote of mine, Alex Trebek. Yeah, the game show host. He's a big fan of nature and natural areas. So you all have a great conference, and learn from each other, and please let me know if you have any ideas for Rocky. We're on the right road ahead, and I'm very optimistic. I think we're definitely in the right direction, and we're going to be expecting that our visitors and our public are going to have, 10 years from now, there's going to be a change, and there's going to be positive experiences and an improvement in the staff, the retention, and our resources. So thank you very much.